Well, even after all this time, I guess there's still a lot to complain about with Dragon Age. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And I saw this article on IGN and I wanted to talk about it because I thought we were moving past it. So let's head on over to IGN here. And here we have nice big bold lettering for the banner. Dragon Age star absolutely devastated over backlash. And in her quotes, it's an idiotic stance to take. Who knows? You know, there's no pleasing anybody these days. Let's just be honest about that. But Dragon Age star Alix Wilton Regan has given her personal response to the backlash faced by last year's The Veilguard and blamed the mixed reactions on people who wanted to see the game fail or wanted to see BioWare fail. And that line had hit me because BioWare has made a lot of great games that I loved. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Neverwinter Nights. I never got the chance to really play those until recently, but my backlog's so large I can't get to that game right now anyway. But not even just that, like I spent years playing all the Mass Effect games. In fact, I bought the trilogy one when it was released in the nice little trifold case and everything for the PlayStation 3. Loved it. Played through all three of the games and finished all three of them, and I fucking loved it. Anyways, that's the part that bothers me. I'm sorry, I know I said anyways like we were going to move on, but gamers don't want to see studios fail. It's become apparent that when these studios start getting ahead, they lose sight of the great games that they used to make, and they start experimenting with finding that, as we've learned in the last couple of years, that broader audience, that larger audience that they were trying to reel in, and they completely threw. It feels like the fans that propped the studios up for years just got thrown to the side. Anyways, like I said, I know I said that before, but we're going to move on with this article here. The actor who plays the female Inquisitor in both Inquisition and Veilguard told IGN that she was devastated to see BioWare's latest game fail to find a larger audience despite mostly positive review scores from critics. And that right there was where you were wrong. I want to say you were wrong about your thoughts on this because, as we all have learned, critics aren't gamers. Critics get paid, they get propped up to put out favorable reviews, but they're not actually gamers. And this takes me back to, and this still makes my blood boil, when the PlayStation, months before the PlayStation 5 released, and they were sending out special units to reviewers at big companies, and I believe it was IGN that got it. I may be wrong. Hopefully Rob can fix that for me in post production stuff. They got a PlayStation 5 months before it was released, and it sat there and collected dust. And this was something that he openly admitted in his article that he wrote. He got a PlayStation 5 months before the release, had it set up, couldn't bring himself to play it, given all the social problems and political problems in the world. And I can't help but bring that up every time when I see these things about critics. And that's because it's just showing their hand so blatantly, and they never get caught on it. There's never any changes to it, and they just get to keep doing this crap. While people like me and Rob, you know, we're trying to do this so we can try to get bigger and be more involved in this stuff. But it bothers. It does. It really bothers me. Anyways, speaking during a new interview discussing her many iconic video game characters to date, she's going to be in Microsoft's upcoming Perfect Dark reboot. And she also talked about her time that she loved doing the Dragon Age games. And my head's just all messed up now. The word critic bothers me with this video game stuff. She goes on to say, as I've stated, I feel absolutely devastated for BioWare as a studio that they got such mixed reactions to the game. Well, yeah, you would see it as a mixed reaction if you actually take critics serious. Critics brought it up here. Gamers didn't like it at all. Everyone tends to believe the gamers over the critics anyways. I personally thought it was a really strong game. I thought it was just BioWare being more BioWare. That would be true if you only followed them more recently. If you know about BioWare's histories, there's been a lot of a revolving door with higher ups, management, and even company leaders. Just a lot of people in and out in a lot of different games. But she says, I also think a lot of people kind of wanted to see it fail or wanted to see BioWare fail, either because they're just really bad people on the internet, of which there are unfortunately many, as we have discovered. And yes, and that's on both sides. I don't think she was trying to say that it's just, although it reads as they're just saying that the gamers are the bad people and the critics aren't, and we all know that's not entirely true. But at launch, IGN go on to say that at launch, the Veilguard was review bombed online. Criticism of the game being woke centered on its inclusion of a non-binary companion character. We don't need to rehash any of this stuff in this paragraph. If you paid attention to anything going on with this game for the last year, I believe it was, not even, the game hasn't even been out a year. I think it was 3 months after its less than 6 months after its release, and it was already one of the PlayStation Plus free games of the month. And GameStop had so many of the collector's edition that they actually knocked them down from $180 to $100. And even to this day, a lot of them are still sitting on the shelves at GameStop. They can't get rid of them. So articles like this get me. And going on, in January, publisher EA said that the Veilguard had underperformed versus its expectations by around 50%, just days after the game's director, Corinne Bush, confirmed she was leaving the company. She was leaving let's be honest here. She was leaving the company because of the poor sales. And floating around on the internet, there was a lot of stuff going on. There was even some insiders at BioWare saying that she's very much a activist politically, who had no business being in charge of a game. Which, I mean, if you're gonna, there's a difference between using politics for a story progression's sake and just inserting all this stuff. But meanwhile, other BioWare staff who worked on the game were laid off. And there was a big discussion about that too. The layoffs were, a lot of people were saying, were part of a post-COVID thing, because a lot of studios were going back to the office and no longer working from home. There was no need to have such a high volume of employees for a game studio. Yeah, I guess. I've never worked in the video game industry, so there's a lot of both sides on that. So I'm not really sure. Anyways, I only ever wanted to see the folks from BioWare thrive because I adore them. We all did at one point. When you go back to the early days of Dragon Age, and Mass Effect, great games, great games. Even back in the early 2000s, I saw that the sales numbers for Baldur's Gate were in the millions of copies of Baldur's Gates in the early 2000s. People loved BioWare and the games they made. It's like with the rest of the video game industry, there's just a lot of activists taking over. And unfortunately, now that we're seeing that when you include all that stuff in gaming, game development doesn't move fast enough to keep up with the changing social political trends that are all over social media and everything. So that is, I can't believe it's still an ongoing thing that's still being discussed. So anyways, it's late. My brain is fried from this. It just bothers me when I see stuff like this still going on. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you didn't, and you just thought I was being an idiot rambling, you can go ahead, thumbs down if you enjoy, if that's how you feel about it too. But anyways, I'm gonna get going here. I'll catch you guys in the next one.